Has anyone ever told you that once you hit 60, intimacy, especially solo intimacy, just isn't important anymore? That it's something to be embarrassed about or something you should have grown out of years ago? Well, I'm here to tell you, that's simply not true. I've been a urologist for over 30 years, and in that time I've spoken with thousands of older men, some married, some widowed, some single for decades, and many of them have quietly asked the same question. Is it still normal to masturbate at my age? Not only is it normal, it can actually be incredibly beneficial. Hi, I'm Dr. John, and welcome to Senior Health Secrets. On this channel, we have real honest conversations about the things most folks are too shy to ask, and today's topic is one that's long overdue. In this video, I'm going to share 5 little-known secrets about masturbation that every older man should know, things your younger self would have wanted to hear. We're talking about how it supports your prostate, improves sleep, lifts your mood, and even boosts your confidence. So if you've ever felt unsure or even ashamed about this topic, you're in good company and you're in the right place. And hey, if you find this helpful or feel a little less alone by the end, I'd love it if you consider subscribing. Let's get into it. Let's start with a truth that most older men don't hear. Nearly enough sexuality doesn't stop with age. Just because you've passed a certain birthday doesn't mean your body or your desire simply shuts off. In fact, your need for intimacy, connection, and even pleasure doesn't magically disappear. It just changes. But somewhere along the way, many men pick up the belief that masturbation is either immature or unnecessary later in life. Some even feel guilty for still wanting it. That guilt, it's not doing you any favors. The reality is, masturbation isn't just about pleasure. It's part of how your body stays healthy and balanced. For many older men, it becomes an important tool for emotional well-being, especially if they're living alone widowed or navigating a relationship that's shifted with age. I remember a gentleman in his early 70s, we'll call him George, who came to me feeling embarrassed. His wife had passed a few years earlier, and he hadn't been with anyone since, but he still felt those natural urges. "Doc," he said, "I thought this part of me was supposed to be gone by now." What he didn't realize was that his body was working exactly as it should. We talked through it medically, emotionally, and once he saw that it was normal, even healthy, it changed everything for him. His energy improved. He felt less anxious, more confident, more in tune with himself. And that's the key. Masturbation isn't just for young guys chasing hormones. It's for older men reconnecting with their bodies, managing stress, even improving circulation. It helps you stay grounded in a body that's changing, not retreat from it. Plus, studies show that men who remain sexually active into their senior years often enjoy better mental sharpness, mood stability, and even mobility. It's not magic, it's just the body responding to regular engagement. So if you've been wondering whether it's still okay, not only is it okay, it's smart. Your body still has needs. And tending to them, just like you'd stretch your joints or go for a walk, is part of taking care of your health. Now that we've established that this part of your life still matters, let's move to something that surprises most men: how self-pleasure might be protecting your prostate more than you realize. Now, let's talk about something most men don't usually connect with masturbation: your prostate health. Your prostate is a small gland about the size of a walnut located just below your bladder. And as you get older, it tends to become more of a topic, whether due to BPH, benign prostatic, hyperplasia, prostatitis, or even concerns about prostate cancer. But here's a piece of good news. You may not have heard: regular ejaculation, including through masturbation, may actually help protect your prostate. Let me explain. There's a study that followed over 30,000 men over several years, and researchers found that those who ejaculated more frequently, we're talking about 21 times or more per month, had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who did so less often. Now, I'm not saying you need to aim for a scoreboard here, but the underlying principle is this: keeping the system moving may help flush out potential irritants, reduce inflammation, and keep the prostate functioning better. This isn't just some internet myth. It's something that's been studied, peer-reviewed, and taken seriously by the medical community. Here's how I like to explain it to my patients. Think of your prostate like an old garden hose. If you don't turn it on for months, sediment builds up, the rubber stiffens, and when you finally try to use it again, well, it doesn't quite work the way you hoped. But give it a regular flow, and it stays clearer, more flexible, and more responsive. That's what regular ejaculation can do for your prostate. It keeps the fluid moving, the pressure balanced, and reduces the chances of congestion or inflammation that can lead to discomfort or long-term problems. And if you've been told that masturbation might harm your prostate or that you're overdoing it, let me be clear, unless it's interfering with your daily life or causing physical discomfort, moderate regular masturbation is not harmful. In fact, it might be one of the simplest things you can do to take care of yourself, especially if partnered intimacy is limited or inconsistent. So, what's a healthy rhythm? Well, it varies from man to man. Some feel great with a few times a week. Others might only feel the urge once or twice a month. The key is to listen to your body, not compare yourself to what you think is normal. There is no normal. There is only what's right for you. And if you've been dealing with prostate issues already, like frequent urination, slow stream, or discomfort, it's always worth talking with your doctor. But don't be surprised if part of the advice you get is to keep things moving gently and regularly. All right, we've covered the body. But what about your mind? Let's move into the third secret, and one that often gets overlooked: how solo intimacy can actually help your mood, your sleep, and your emotional well-being. So far, we've talked about the body, how masturbation helps your prostate and keeps the system functioning. But now, let's talk about something just as important: your brain. Many older men don't realize how closely their mood, energy, and emotional balance are tied to their sexual health, even when it's just between them and themselves. Here's what actually happens in your brain when you masturbate. Your body releases a mix of feel-good chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. These are the same brain chemicals that kick in when you hug someone you love, eat your favorite meal, or finish a great walk. They help regulate your mood, lower stress, and even ease feelings of loneliness. And let's talk about sleep. A lot of my older patients, especially those living alone, have trouble falling or staying asleep. There's racing thoughts, aches and pains, maybe even some emotional restlessness. But self-pleasure, particularly before bed, can actually help regulate your nervous system. It relaxes the muscles, eases the mind, and helps signal to your body, it's time to rest. I had a patient named Walter, 76, living alone after a long marriage. He wasn't sleeping well, felt restless most nights, and was increasingly anxious. After some conversation and ruling out major health concerns, we got honest. He admitted he'd stopped any kind of self-touch years ago, thinking it was behind him. I told him gently that it might be worth revisiting. A couple of weeks later, he told me with a sheepish grin that he was sleeping like a baby. That was no coincidence. Now, does this mean it's a cure-all? Of course not. But for many seniors, it becomes part of a simple, calming nightly routine, much like brushing your teeth or taking a warm shower. It's not about lust or fantasy. It's about comfort release and connection, even if it's just with yourself. This is especially powerful for those who've lost a spouse or have been single for a long time. Because what often goes unspoken is that physical touch, even your own, is a human need. Not a youthful indulgence, not a guilty pleasure, a need. When you give yourself permission to feel good, to unwind, and to connect, it often leads to better energy, fewer mood swings, and even sharper thinking. And here's something interesting: studies show that men who continue some form of regular sexual activity, including solo, often report higher self-esteem and better emotional resilience, even compared to peers who are completely inactive. So, if you've ever noticed yourself feeling edgy, irritable, or just a little off, don't overlook this part of your care routine. It may not be a pill, but it's still a powerful tool. Of course, once you start reconnecting with this part of yourself, questions about performance naturally come up. Things feel different than they used to, and that can bring on frustration or doubt. So, in the next section, we're going to address one of the most common concerns: older men have performance pressure. Now let's get into something I hear all the time from men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. It just doesn't work the way it used to. Things take longer. I'm not sure I'm doing it right anymore. Sound familiar? The truth is, as you age, your body does change, and that includes your sexual function. But here's the thing: most men don't realize different doesn't mean broken. Let's break it down simply. As testosterone levels gradually decrease with age, a few things naturally shift. Erections may not be as firm or fast as they were in your 30s. It might take longer to become aroused. You may even find that ejaculation is less forceful or that recovery takes more time. All of this is completely normal, not a sign of failure. But here's the secret: masturbation can actually be part of maintaining healthy sexual function as you age. Think of it like this: if you don't walk regularly, your legs weaken. If you don't use your voice, it gets softer. The The same goes for sexual response. Regular gentle stimulation keeps the nerves' blood flow and muscle memory engaged. Now, let's talk about expectation. In younger years, the idea might have been fast, intense, goal-oriented, but many older men find that a more relaxed, mindful, and intentional experience works better now. Think less sprint, more stroll. This shift can be deeply satisfying and in some ways even more meaningful. I often use the analogy of fine dining. When you're young, maybe it's all about a fast burger on the go. But with age, you learn to savor a home-cooked meal, slow, rich, and fulfilling. Solo intimacy can be the same way. Slower touch, more focus on sensation, less urgency to get there. It's not about the finish line anymore, it's about being present in your body. And here's an empowering truth. The pressure to perform doesn't have to exist when you're with yourself. No need to impress, prove, or compare. This is your time, your rhythm, your experience. If you're using pornography and finding that it adds to your frustration, you're not alone. Many older men say it makes them feel disconnected or inadequate. If that's the case, try tuning into your own memories, thoughts, or sensations instead. You might be surprised how much more connected you feel. I remember talking to a 68-year-old man named Leonard who felt frustrated because he thought he had to keep up with what he saw in adult films. Once we talked it through, he let go of that external comparison. A few weeks later, he came back and said, "Doc, for the first time in years, I actually enjoyed the experience instead of judging it." So here's the takeaway. Your experience is valid. The goal isn't performance, it's connection. Your body is aging, yes, but it's also wise. It knows how to enjoy touch, how to relax, how to feel, if you'll give it permission. And that brings us to our final and maybe most powerful secret of all letting go of shame. Because for many older men, even if the body is willing, the mind is holding on to decades of judgment, guilt, or cultural silence. Let's talk about that. Now, let's get to what may be the most important secret of all, one that doesn't show up on lab results or scans, but lives quietly inside so many older men's shame. Let's be honest, for most of your life, you were probably taught that masturbation was something to hide, maybe even something to feel bad about. For some, it was linked to religion. For others, it came from family, or simply the era we grew up in. It wasn't talked about. It was seen as dirty, or childish, or unnecessary once you were in a relationship, or once you reached a certain age. But here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. There's absolutely nothing shameful about caring for your own body. You wouldn't feel guilty for stretching your back or rubbing your knees when they ache. You wouldn't feel embarrassed about brushing your teeth or taking a walk to clear your head. This is no different. Masturbation in older adulthood is a form of emotional hygiene. It helps you process, release, and reconnect with yourself. I've sat with men in their 60s, 70s, even 90s, strong men, kind men who've broken down in tears because they've spent decades believing that this one natural act made them somehow less moral, less mature, less of a man. And it breaks my heart every time because the truth is just the opposite. When a man, especially an older man, chooses to care for himself with tenderness without judgment, that's not weakness, that's wisdom. And here's something beautiful: when you let go of shame, something else fills its place. Peace, confidence, lightness, a sense of control over your own body again. You may have grown up in a time when this topic wasn't discussed, not at the dinner table, not with your doctor, not even with close friends. But the world has changed. Our understanding of health has evolved, and so can we. One of my longtime patients, Harold, 82, once told me, "Doc, I wish someone had told me 40 years ago that it was okay to enjoy being with myself. I would have saved myself a lot of heartache." Well, Harold, you're not alone. And if you're listening to this right now and feeling even the slightest bit seen, I want you to know something: you're allowed. You're allowed to feel good. You're allowed to explore your body even now. You're allowed to take care of yourself, not just out of habit, but out of compassion. So here's your takeaway from this entire section. You don't need permission from anyone, not society, not your past, not your upbringing. You are the permission. The more we normalize this conversation, especially among older men, the more we break down barriers that have kept too many suffering in silence. So try this. Let go of one old belief, just one that no longer serves you. Maybe it's the belief that you're too old, or that it's somehow wrong. Replace it with a new one. My needs are valid. My body deserves kindness. I still matter. And now, as we wrap up this journey, let's bring all of this together in one final thought. So here's the big takeaway. Masturbation, especially as we age, isn't shameful, selfish, or strange. It's normal, natural, and in many ways, nourishing. It supports your prostate, calms your mind, improves sleep, eases stress, and reminds you that your body still deserves care and pleasure, no matter your age. If this helped you see things differently, comment 1 below. And if you know someone, a brother, a buddy, or a friend, who might benefit from this, don't keep it a secret. Share it. You could be the reason they feel a little less alone. And hey, if you found this kind of honest, real advice helpful, subscribe to the channel. This is what we do here, open, respectful conversations to help you live healthier, longer, and more confidently. You're not too old, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone. Until next time, I'm Dr. John. Be good to yourself, you deserve it.